Overtime. Sponsored by Wendy's. They got you for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everything in between. High school sports, we've got it covered. Overtime starts now.
Hello and welcome to Overtime, our weekly look at high school sports in the state line. I'm Scott Leber.
And I'm David Greenberg. We have 30 minutes full of high school sports coverage for you once again. We'll bring you a feature story on Boylan's record-setting swimmer Nhia Caras, and we'll get to know Hononegah swimmer Finley Hamilton.
In our Glory Days segment, we'll look back at the 1974 state champion East Rabs football team with star running back Ira Matthews, plus your school spirit photos in Week 5 in our Battle of the Stadiums contest. Well, demand for the return of high school football in Illinois this fall is growing. Communities and coaches are organizing rallies to make a plea to politicians to reinstate football.
Let Us Play rallies will be held this weekend in Chicago and in Springfield, but those rallies aren't likely to sway Governor Pritzker. He said this week that he's not in favor of games being played.
Look, I'm not willing to sacrifice people's lives or their health, neither the children nor their parents who would be affected also. And so we're being careful about it, but I am relying upon doctors and researchers to give us the information. This isn't a political decision. I know that there are people who would like me simply to make a political decision to allow people to endanger themselves.
When it was pointed out to the governor that other states around Illinois are playing football this fall, Pritzker said if those states decide to endanger their children and families, then that's their decision.
And that brings us to this week's poll question. Do you think Governor Pritzker's decision not to allow football this fall is political? Cast your yes or no answer on any tech device. You can do that by going to mystateline.com/interact. That's mystateline.com/interact. We'll update you later in the show on how you're answering.
Let's get into some highlights from this past week. Girls swimming on Tuesday, Belvedere Co-op against Hononegah. This was the girls' 50-yard backstroke. Hononegah's Gracie Colvin got off to a really nice start here. She led pretty much the entire way heading into the turn. Cut to halfway down the final stretch. Colvin continues her dominance and takes home first in the third heat by quite a large margin. Let's head to one of the most intense races at these meets, the 200-yard individual medley. They're off, and in this event, the girls are required to do all 4 strokes, starting with butterfly, going into backstroke, then breaststroke, and finishing with a 2-lap freestyle sprint to the finish. This one was a lot closer right until the end when Belvedere's Emerson Gaines pulled away, finishing with a time of 2 minutes, 34.4 seconds. Coming in second and third from Hononegah was Finley Hamilton and Natalie Marr. Hononegah took home first place, winning this one 129-78.
Our rainy weather made for quite a quiet sports day locally last Saturday, with one exception. The boys and girls cross-country meets at Fuller Forest Preserve went on. We began with the boys' race, a tri-meet involving Winnebago, Stillman, and North Boone. North Boone Samuel Toledo and Stillman Salvador Salas Godinez battled for the lead through the first half of the race. But with 1 mile to go, Winnebago's sophomore Henry Snyder turned it on. He wound up winning the race easily. Salas Godinez took second and Toledo third. North Boone won the meet. Now, Snyder's individual victory was impressive considering this is only his first season of cross-country.
I started slow to give some momentum and space for myself to work in the last mile. Yeah, that's what I did.
On the same 3 schools went at it in the girls' race. Winnebago has quality and quantity. The Indians set the pace through the trails of the Forest Preserve from start to finish. Winnebago runners took the top 7 spots to win the team championship. Senior Natalia Martino there sat out a couple weeks ago with a neck injury, but she was back and she dominated, winning this race with no other runners in sight when she finished. What's impressive is she still has a lot of room for improvement.
I did not feel good today. My legs were heavy, I had a breathing cramp, and it was very humid, so it made it very hard to breathe.
The conditions obviously not the greatest with all the rain. How was it out there on the course?
It was a bit sloppy. In several spots there's standing water, and it's very muddy on the backstretch, but you just got to run through it and make the best of the situation.
Taking second place and third place for Winnebago were Katie Erb and Madison Bertram.
Switch to golf, and a good match Monday between the Guilford and Harlem boys. Getting things started for the Vikings was Connor Knuth. He had a nice day with the driver, which put him in good spots around the greens. Here he is on the dance floor with a lengthy putt for birdie. He knocks this one down. That was part of a solid round for Knuth. He finished with a 42. Alongside him was his teammate Luke Grawl. He had some great putts, but struggled around the fairways a bit. Check out this putt from long range on the second hole for birdie. Sinks that one. You can see him trying to hold back his smile just a little bit. This next one from distance on the final 9th hole. Really well read for him. He knocks this down to cap off a round of 44. Leading the way for Harlan was Eli Bearfield. He had the most consistent round of the foursome. Check out this chip at the first, just off the green in a steep downhill slope, but he reads it pretty well and just skates it to the left. But he would tap that in for par. He finished with a 40. Guilford won the match 176 to 179. Despite the loss, Bearfield said it's always nice when he gets to compete against his friends.
It was good because we were playing with people that we knew, so it was more like relaxed. It's a good experience because playing with people you don't know, it's kind of hard because you don't want to talk to them, throw them off their game. So like when you can talk to them and like have a conversation, it's easier to be relaxed and just play your game.
Coming up next, we'll check out some of your school spirit photos. Plus, we'll meet a Boylan swimmer who's been setting records in the pool since her freshman year.
And later in our Glory Days segment, a look back at a dominant 1974 East Raps football team with star running back Ira Matthews. You're watching Overtime. Well, this is one of my favorite parts of the show where we look back at some of your school spirit photos.
Yeah, moments in time from the good old days, which might have been years ago or just last year. Like this one of Stillman Valley's student section at a football game last fall. They were dressed up in patriotic colors. That was a big game for them at Byron.
Love that. Now, this next one was sent to us by one of Dakota's biggest fans, Kyle Rydellball. That's him, number 78. He was presented with a jersey by some of the football players for being the #1 fan for homecoming. That was in 2005 when Kyle was in the 7th grade.
Our third photo is of Noah Hickox in his senior year at Boylan way back in 2016. That was the night he returned an interception for a touchdown against Hononegah. Noah now plays for the University of Minnesota. We want to see your school spirit photos.
Email those to sports@fox39.com. That's sports@fox39.com. And be sure to include your name and a brief description of your photo.
There is a girls' high school swimming season this fall, but as of now, there most likely won't be a state meet.
And if there's not, it'll be a shame for one Boylan swimmer in particular, Nhia Caras. We're bringing her story in our Overtime Spotlight segment. What Nia Caris does in the pool often ends up on the wall of records beside the pool at Boylan. She's been setting school, meet, and pool records since her freshman year.
She is a powerhouse. I'm like one of the most competitive people you could meet. Like, no matter what it is. Like, if it's like a game of cards, like, I'm gonna get into the game of cards. So I just like to compete and get up every day and race.
Caris' specialties are the 50 freestyle and the 100 freestyle. She has been the NIC 10 champion in both of those events each of the last 3 years. She's also qualified for state each of the last 3 years. Last year, she finished 11th at state in the 50 freestyle, despite being plagued by injuries and ill health almost the entire season.
At the beginning of the season, I got a shoulder injury. I had bicep tendonitis and then an overuse injury of my right shoulder. And so I had to deal with that. I wasn't able to train fully. And then I got pneumonia 2 weeks before sectional. So I had to swim my end season with pneumonia and a shoulder injury. And I have asthma, so it made my pneumonia even worse.
She did struggle with some health ailments last year, but she ended on a great note. To place in the top 12 in any individual event at state is a remarkable feat.
How did you overcome all that?
Just press on, that's all. That's my quote, press on and keep going. No matter what, never give up, because I wasn't gonna not go to state, so. A lot of it was really hard last year because a lot of people like to put their assumptions in with my injury and everything, if I was faking it, if it was real, and it definitely was real, but a lot of people started talking. It was really hard to deal with people chiming in their own opinions, and that was really hard to overcome and not learn how to not listen to the outside noise.
But Kara says she's healthy and strong this year.
I do feel faster. I'm more ready. I'm more prepared. I've been lifting more. I've been running more. My endurance is way better. I finally healed my shoulder because that was a big issue last year.
There are no relay events this season due to social distancing protocols, but that also means swimmers can compete in more individual events. So Caras could be setting more records.
Well, I'm a flyer too. I can do 100 fly, and I'd like to get better at the 200 free. One of my goals this year is to improve my times and try to break as many records as I can.
I think she's definitely a determined individual, and once she sets her sights on a goal, she goes after it.
Caras started swimming when she was 5 years old. She comes from an athletic family, but not necessarily a family of swimmers.
Well, I live with my dad, my grandma, and my grandpa, and they're all great athletes. Like, my dad was a good basketball player. He played for Guilford, but I mean, we're all athletes and we're all competitive.
Then there's the other member of the family, Caras' pet rabbit, Murphy.
I like to play with my pet rabbit. I take him on walks.
He goes for walks.
Yeah. He does go for walks.
Does he swim yet?
No, they can't swim. They can swim, but they could die from it because they get heart attacks.
So back to swimming. If there is a state meet this year, what are Caras' goals?
Win. Try to win. I want to win.
Well, once again, there is no state meet planned for now by the IHSA, but that doesn't mean that won't change. And boy, Nia has a great attitude when it comes to pushing through adversity.
Yeah, she really does. And if a rabbit's foot is good luck, think about what kind of luck a live rabbit with 4 feet could mean.
Yeah, there you go, no question.
Up next, it's week 5 of our Battle of the Stadiums competition.
And if you don't know about the great 1974 East Rabs football team, you'll want to stick around for our Glory Days segment on that group. That's next. Many people over the age of 50 and certainly over 60 would tell you that the best high school football team that Rockford has ever produced was the 1974 East E-Rabs. They were the Class 4A state champions that fall. They're the focus of our Glory Days segment. Now, the E-Rabs went 13-0 that season. It was no surprise. They'd gone 9-0 the year before in 1973. That year, there were no playoffs. The first year was 1974, and the timing could not have been better for this talented team. There were 12 players on East who received all conference honors in the Big Nine. 2 players made All-State, flanker Ira Matthews and defensive lineman Stuart Walker. Walker also was named a Parade All-American. East also had the conference's leading passer, Dean Schluter. 3 players on that team were eventually selected in the NFL Draft in 1979. Walker, Matthews, and tight end defensive lineman Jerry Holloway. A 4th, defensive back and running back Russell Pope, got a tryout with 2 NFL teams. That team also featured future Wisconsin Badger offensive lineman George Wodowitz, plus talented fullback Joe Black and defensive lineman Lonnie Washington. The head coach was Bob Pellant. In the state championship game, East whipped the Normal Ironmen 34-15. Matthews scored 3 touchdowns in that game. Joining us now on the phone from his home near Houston, Texas, is Ira Matthews. And Ira, as I mentioned, 1974 was the first year of the playoffs. That had to be an exciting time to know that you would get to participate in a postseason. Do you remember what your reaction was when you found out a playoff system was being added?
We must have been sophomores when they devised the plan for first ever Illinois State Championship. But you know, even at that time, we were undefeated freshman year, sophomore year. So we figured couldn't nobody beat us anyway. We had a good chance.
Were you guys basically a running team, or what style did you play?
We could run the ball. We could pass the ball. We audibled with me and Russell Pope, Joe Black in the backfield. There was never one person you could key on.
There was so much talent in the offensive backfield. Was it hard to share the ball and keep everybody happy?
Well, basically, one of the coaches devised a system where if the strong side of the flanker was going to be right, I would be the flanker. And if the flanker was going to be left, Russell would be the flanker, because we both could run and catch. So that sort of helped us get a situation where we all sort of shared the touches.
Now, you scored 3 touchdowns in the championship game. Do you recall any of those?
Yeah, the first one might have been my second carry. I went about 40 yards on the sweep. And then the third time, I think, this all in the first half, I touched the ball. We were supposed to be sweeping again, but I reversed fields. And I think I went 80-something on that one. Oh, and the other one I scored was a pass, 5 yard out. And also, I ran a punt back. They called that back because it claimed Stuart Walker clipped somebody. So technically, I had 4 touchdowns in the state game.
Now, Stuart Walker sounds like he was amazing on defense. He had 150 tackles and 17 sacks that year. What was he like as a player? How would you describe him?
But Stuart was a parade All-American defense. And, man, I saw Stuart do what he did when we was youngsters at Booker T. Washington. And his nickname was Stu Buckets. You know Dick Buckets? So how you get that name as a kid? Yeah, I mean, nothing did surprise.
After you guys won the championship, there was a caravan to the high school, and they threw a big pep rally for the team that night. I understand the gym was packed. Do you recall that?
It was great. You know, we had great fouling. And, you know, we had a lot of people came downstate to see the game. And so we had a good camaraderie with the students and athletes. In class of 75, we still get together, hang out. I think our class reunion, there still might be 200-300 people come.
Our thanks to Ira Matthews for joining us. That East team had to be something to see. Matthews, by the way, won a Super Bowl with the Raiders during the 1980 NFL season. He now is retired and living near Houston. Coming up next, we get to know Hononiga's senior swimmer, Finley Hamilton. Right now it's time for our overtime trivia question. What Nick 10 quarterback set a conference record for most touchdown passes in the season just last year? What Nick 10 quarterback set a conference record for touchdown passes in the season last year? Well, the answer coming up.
Once again, here's our overtime trivia question. What Nick 10 quarterback set a conference record for the most touchdown passes in a season last year?
The answer is Peyton Mather of Hononiga. He threw 29 touchdown passes. Well, we try to cover all sides of our high school athletes on this show.
That's why we bring you our Getting to Know You segment each week. This week, I sat down with Hononiga swimmer Finley Hamilton.
Wow, that's a hard one. That's a good one. I really enjoyed, that's a good one. I really enjoyed, chicken. It's just
chicken.
You can just do a lot with it, you know. I think it's good. It's good protein.
Right. Do you have a favorite chicken dish?
Just my dad makes this fantastic grilled chicken.
Okay.
Shout out to him. It's just really good. You put pesto on it. So good. I would recommend it.
Very good. Well, my dad makes a chicken marsala that I love. So
I love chicken marsala. That's so good.
Okay, so we have that in common.
Yeah,
yeah. If you had to fill a pool with one liquid other than water, what liquid would you choose?
I know
what mine would be.
What's yours?
Chocolate milk.
That's good. I wouldn't want to swim in it, but it'd be so good.
Right. I feel
chocolate
like I would
milk
just
is
drink the whole pool.
Yeah,
well, I do that anyways when I swim.
That's like the swimmer's standard drink. We
Right.
all love chocolate milk.
Right. I love that.
Yeah, that's really good.
Awesome.
I love the movie La La Land. It's just, and whenever I can't think of something to watch, I go and watch that. Currently, I'm watching Great British Baking Show. That's a good one.
I've never heard of that. What is that?
It's so good. It's a cooking competition, but it's baking, and they're all British.
Oh, wow.
And it's a lot different than American cooking shows because
Right.
everyone's so supportive and nice to each other.
That's not very American,
No,
is it?
no. It's just, it's so nice to see. It's really just encouraging.
That's fun. That's awesome.
Beluga whales.
Beluga whales.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're good swimmers?
You know, I'm not really sure. Just one day I decided beluga whales, that's where it's at.
That's a really fun animal.
I know.
love that. And of course, it's got to be a marine animal
Of course,
too, not just
yeah.
a land animal.
It's on brand.
Very, yes, very.
Swimming in chocolate milk, huh?
Oh, of course. It'd be amazing. What's yours?
Well, considering it's the fall season, maybe cider or some sort of pumpkin spice milk. Huh?
Okay.
Well, it's that time when we pit our local stadiums against each other in our quest to discover your favorite Stateline stadiums.
It's our Battle of the Stadiums contest. Last week in a big northern matchup, Geno Kingston Stadium defeated Oregon Stadium with 77% of the vote. And in an area school matchup, Rockford Christian Stadium defeated Christian Life Stadium with 79% of the vote. Now let's meet this week's contestants. There you have it. Vote for your favorites now or anytime this coming week by going to our website, mystateline.com. Look for the Battle of the Stadiums tab or image.
We'll be right back. That does it for this show.
Enjoy your weekend, everybody.
Overtime. Sponsored by Wendy's. They got you for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everything in between.